Everyone, I'm Jo Manadix. Can everyone hear me? Yeah. No?
Can't hear you, have to stand up.
Hello everyone. Yeah? Hello everyone, I'm Jo Manadix.
Hi Jo.
Thank you for everyone making this convention possible. Ironically, the last time, apart from the last convention I was here, I was here for my graduation ball and I was 19 and I was sniffing cocaine in the toilets. So how ironic is that? I want to thank everyone. I want to thank everyone for all the hard work putting on this convention. It can't have been an easy task. And without you guys, it couldn't have happened. So, similarities instead of the differences. My whole life before I found recovery, I felt different. As a kid, I felt different. Being in school, I always wanted to be somebody else. And just always felt different. I had a lovely childhood. My mum and dad got divorced when I was little, but that was just my life and that was all I knew. And then when I was 10, my dad died, and then I felt even more different because not only was I the one from the broken family, I was the one whose dad had died. So that sort of reinforced how different I felt. I went through school desperately trying to I went through school desperately trying to be someone else. Whoever's friend group I was with at the time, I'd want to be like them. And at the age of 14, I found alcohol, and it just made me feel like I didn't care. It was what I thought was the answer because I got all this all this confidence that I never had normally, and it just seemed to fix this gaping hole that I had inside of me, this void, and I was off and running, but I had no stop button. I was the one star-shaped in the middle of the field, getting carried home by a mate at 14, 15, and having a daughter of 15 now makes me realise how wrong that was. I then found other drugs, which took me to my knees. I used everything to the extreme. It doesn't matter what drugs we take in these rooms, because the drug of my choice took me to my knees and left me in a state where I wanted to die. And it was a horrible place to be. You know, we've all been in that rock bottom, and I hit it pretty quickly. It was fun at first. It was a laugh through the rave scene, taking pills and smoking a bit of weed and all that sort of stuff. And then I found my drug of choice, and slowly but surely it went from a weekly thing to much more. I got married and got pregnant with my first little girl. And in the 4-year difference between being pregnant with one baby to my next pregnancy, I got to the point where I couldn't stop. And I used against my will for the whole of that pregnancy, to the point where I nearly lost her. But I didn't, and she was born healthy, and the guilt and shame kicked in, and then I knew I was in serious trouble because I couldn't stop. I was using against my will every day. And that again, why couldn't I be that mum that I wanted to be? Why was I different? And now I know that it's because I suffer from this disease, and the only solution for me was when I found Narcotics Anonymous. When I got here 7.5 years ago, I just thought I was a horrible person. I thought I was the worst of the worst. I was a terrible mum to my little girls who were 8 and 4. I was the worst person in the world. You know, I was the mum that forgot about World Book Day, and I'd have to run home and get her changed quick so she didn't feel different. I was that mum that forgot everything because the only thing that was important to me at that time was the drugs, and how I'd get them. And I went to, there was ways and means of getting them, and I'm not proud of that. However, back in 2018, my friend who had gone into another fellowship 18 months previous messaged me and said she couldn't watch herself kill myself. She couldn't watch me kill myself anymore. So she said she was taking me to a meeting, and if I didn't go, she was walking away from our friendship. And by that point, I'd had enough. As I say, I was using against my will, and I wanted to die. So I found my first meeting, which was the women's meeting in Birkenhead, and I was met with love, and I was told that they would love me until I could love myself, and that is how it happened. For the first time, I didn't feel different. I felt like I was in the right place. I didn't feel uncomfortable. I was shitting myself, don't get me wrong, and I cried all the way through that meeting, and but even I still picked up something. Women were talking about using during their pregnancies, and that was something I was taking to my grave. I wasn't telling anyone that stuff. That was locked inside my head, and I was telling absolutely no one. But that gave me the ability to get honest for the first time in 40 years. And that meeting saved my life, because I truly believe if I hadn't walked into that meeting that Monday night, I would not be sat here now. I would be dead. And I am forever grateful to that meeting and those women in that meeting. When I first came round, after that pink fluffy cloud disappeared, I did start seeing the similarities, but I also saw the differences. I hadn't used what other people had used. You know, I hadn't had my children taken away from me. I wasn't homeless. But whenever I start, and I can still do it now, whenever I start taking myself off and disconnecting, I always try and bring it back to the similarities. You know, we're all sat in this room because we have the disease of addiction, and we have a head that separates us. And by going to meetings and by doing step work and connecting with your sponsor and getting service, it's like charging a battery. You know, you can't use your phone unless you charge it. And I truly believe that your recovery doesn't continue unless you plug into this stuff. And that's what I've kept doing. You know, life hasn't been easy. Life throws you curveballs. That's just life. But if we keep doing this and we keep looking for those similarities as opposed to the differences like I used to, then we'll be all right and we can get through anything. There's been lots of ups and downs. You know, I had to learn who I was as a person, because I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what food I liked. I didn't know, because I didn't eat. I didn't know, you know, what my favourite colour was. I didn't know my children. You know, I can't remember my youngest, Daisy's, being a baby. But it's not like that today. You know, my life is so different to how it was 7.5, 8 years ago. I turn up for my kids. I turn up for my husband. I'm a daughter that my mum and stepdad can rely on. And life is Life is really good. Generally, life is really good unless I stop doing this stuff, and then it gets very shit very quickly. I isolate, I stop talking to my sponsor, and then I start seeing the differences as opposed to the similarities. It's not rocket science, but I make it really fucking difficult for myself sometimes. But yeah, how am I for time?
19 minutes.
Okay. 19 minutes left. Fucking hell.
Do your best. Do your best.
Oh Christ.
Yeah, whatever you're comfortable with.
I'm not sure I can go for 19 minutes. But yeah, as I say, life throws curveballs, doesn't it? It really does. Not so long. And back in November, my friend died. And it was really, really difficult. She was just a little bit younger than me, and she'd been ill for a while, and we didn't know each other for very long, but we got very close very quickly. And my daughter and her daughter are best friends, and it was tough. It was really hard. The thing is now, I don't find me solution isn't to want to use drugs. It's to just run away and not be here anymore. Drugs for me used to be the solution. It really did. It was always the solution. I'd have a good day, I'd get a bag in. I'd have a shit day, I'd get a bag in. It was fucking raining outside, and I'd get a bag in. And very quickly, it became the solution to everything. And it's not like that today. It's really not. I've had some amazing experiences in this fellowship. I've been away with some of the women. I've had some amazing days out, and it's this is the solution. I can easily flip back into seeing the differences like I did when I was a little girl. I remember when I was little, I must have been about 5 or 6. There was a girl in my class, and I still remember her name, Laura Boys, her name was, and she had long blonde hair and blue eyes. And for about 6 months, I used to pray every night that I'd wake up looking like her. You know what I mean? That's how different I felt. That's how different I wanted to be, because I just didn't know how to be comfortable in my own skin. And it's not like that today. I'm proud of who I am and who I've become, but it's all down to this programme and the women and the men in this programme. I've made some incredible friends, and they become like family, they do. Not everyone likes me, and I don't like everyone, but that's okay. I remember I was probably about 6 months clean, and I did a share that in a meeting about what was it? Something like hardened user, and it really, really affected me. And my sponsor was sponsoring another girl who had a really similar story to mine. She'd used the same drugs as me. She had lost her children, and she came over to the women's and did a share, and it was like, wow, I just needed to see the similarities that I have in this fellowship. That's who I am. This is where I should be. This is where I need to be. Sometimes we just need, a bit of a rejig, and we need to see that we've all got similarities here. Looking at the similarities instead of the differences is massive. Is massive, because as I say, I can slip right back into seeing the differences rather than seeing the similarities. It's easily done. So I think I'm going to stop there, because I'm drying up and I don't want to waffle. So thank you all for listening. I hope somebody got something from my share, and if not, I'm sure they'll get something from Carl. I'll leave it there.
Thanks so much, Joe. Your share, I've got many similarities from that. No, thanks for your honesty. It's how it works, isn't it? And now I'd like to welcome Carl.
Will that reach that one?
Dunno.
Do you want to swap?
Hey.
There we go.